Tom Clark's 6M podcast is a Boink Studios production. And now, on with the show. Hey, what is up? Welcome to Tom Clark's 6M podcast. I'm your host, Tom Clark, and in this episode, I'm joined by co-host Phil Lindsey. Michael Jackson is one of the biggest stars in the history of pop music, popular music in general. I don't think that's a stretch. I don't know why anybody disagree with that. We've covered Michael here on the show before. We've done the Thriller album because, man, it's worth doing because, man, that's a classic. And holy God, did that album make a little bit of money. It may have spent, more than a couple of weeks at number one. Like, it still stands the test of time, kids, by the way. But this show's not about that particular Jackson from that kind of really messed up family. This deals with his little baby sister. This deals with Janet Jackson. And brother, let me tell you, if you're of a certain age and you're a male, then buddy, you know Janet Jackson. And are you not only familiar, but man, are you a fan? Holy Lord. I can tell you that I am. Always have been. So one of my favorite shows as a kid was Good Times. Love that freaking show. And, little Janet Jackson was on that show. And then years later, she starts becoming a thing and having her own career. And then suddenly it's like, oh, that's her. That's, So like, again, if you're a dude and you're a certain age, then you feel a certain kind of way about Janet Jackson. Her first name ain't Baby. It's Janet. Miss Jackson, if you're nasty. I promise you, I still feel a certain kind of way about Janet Jackson. That's no joke. What we're going to get into here today, this album turns 35 this year, which means two things. Number one, I'm crazy, insanely old. Number two, I got a foot in the grave and I'm getting closer every day. 35? Are you freaking kidding me? Yes, that's crazy. Yes, that's insane. Yes, this is a classic album that deserves all the flowers, and I can't wait to get into it. So let's get into it. Janet Jackson's Rhythm Nation 1814 is the fourth studio album by the aforementioned Janet Jackson, released on September 19th, 1989 by A&M Records. Although label executives wanted material similar to her previous album, Control, in 1986, Jackson insisted on creating a concept album addressing social issues. Good for her. Collaborating with songwriters and record producers Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, legends, she drew inspiration from various tragedies reported through the news media, exploring racism, poverty, and substance abuse, in addition to themes of romance. Although its primary concept of a socio-political utopia was met with mixed reactions, its composition received critical acclaim. Jackson came to be considered a role model for youth because of her socially conscious lyrics. And that's just barely scraping the surface. A lot to get here to today. But that is your lowdown on Janet Jackson's Rhythm Nation 1814. So Phil, you're a man of a certain age. Do you happen to be a Janet fan? Be honest with me.
Yeah, I think she's had incredible music, has a great discography, just a ton of cultural moments, like you said, like Good Times, Different Strokes, Poetic Justice. That's just a handful of the movies and TV shows she's been a part of. Being a part of one of the most famous families in the world, and being next to one of the greatest, if not the greatest, entertainer ever, and then being able to follow up with that and have a really, really good career on your own, it's pretty impressive. Like, it would have been very hard for most people to follow up what Michael has done and also have like this great career in your respect. But she did it, and she did it with like flying colors.
It's insane. She was Michael's little sister, as I described her. But buddy, there came a point in time. I don't think Control was it, but I think this album was it, 100%, where it became, yeah, we know she's Michael's sister, but that's not really the story anymore. The story is this girl can flat out go, and she's amazing. And man, put her on stage next to anyone, she's going to smoke them. Yes. I mean, it's crazy, dude.
Yeah, and I mean, she's just multi-talented, uh, great singer, great dancer, pretty good actress as well. Just fantastic all-around entertainer. Um, and I mean, a lot of people don't put those things together,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
There's a lot of people that are extremely talented, but they don't have the body of work that she has. And I think like her first two albums were good, but there's her career before she started working with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, and there's her career afterwards. They completely changed her career.
They did 100% change her career. Like you can't even compare the two. I mean, I did more than hint in the beginning of this episode that if you're a man of a certain age, you really like Janet Jackson. I mean, but dude, she never leaned on that. I mean, we can get into that later. I mean, she's a gorgeous woman, but
Yeah.
that wasn't what got her there. Like her freaking raw talent and her determination to be the best. That's what carried her through all the way through, man.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, I think we all remember like the "I Get So Lonely" video and just like like Janet like doing things that are like, or like the I think it's the Hawaiian tour that was the HBO special.
Yeah.
And there's the part where she like gets the one guy and puts him on stage and gives him the lap
Yes.
dance. Like so like I mean, yeah, I mean I just think she's had a multifaceted career.
Yeah.
She had her girl next door time period. She had her very social political time period. She had her sexual icon period. And she managed to do all of those things and still be taken seriously.
Mm. Is this your favorite Janet album, by the way?
That's a good question. Control might be my favorite.
Hmm.
I think Control is a very good album, but it was quite a feat to go from your coming of age album being Control, where you're making more adult music and it's more pop, it's more dance, but then following that up and still doing like the pop and dance stuff, but also coming with a message and it
Mm.
didn't beat you over the head. All of the things were there, but the album is still very, very good if you're just listening for easygoing music.
I think for me, and I do love this album, but I think for me, Janet in 1993 is my favorite Janet Jackson album. It came along at a certain at like the right time for me, sort of becoming a young man and trying to find my way in the world after high school and whatnot. Like, yeah, it just came along at the right time. I freaking love that album, but I do love this one as well.
Are you saying you like the Janet album? Is it because it had the is that the tour with like the poster with the guy holding her breasts?
Yeah, it was her boyfriend, right? Wasn't that the story? It was her boyfriend in
Yeah.
that picture, I think.
Is
Yeah.
that why the album's your favorite?
I could sound like the typical sexist guy, but like, no. I mean, I don't know. There's something about the sound of that album, and she's just I don't know,
Yeah.
man. It's hard to and plus, we talked a lot about here on the show before, Phil, about having emotional connections to certain songs for certain periods of time in your
Yeah.
life. That's totally me with that album.
Yeah, I can totally understand it. A lot of big hits on that album as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I believe "Isn't I Get So Lonely" that we just talked about. That's on that album.
I think so, yes. Actually,
No,
no, that's
I'm
not
wrong.
on
"I
there.
Get Lonely" is on Velvet Rope.
Ah, there you go. Yeah, so Janet had "That's the Way Love Goes," and, yeah, there's quite a bit of playful songs on that album, buddy, let me tell you. "If" is a great song, by the way, if anybody remembers the song "If," it's freaking awesome.
Yes.
Oh, such a good song. So, let me ask you a question, man. Do we even get to that album without Rhythm Nation? I mean, do we even get that far in her progression as an artist without the album we're talking about here today?
I don't think we do because I think that she needed to make Control, like I said, which was a real coming to age album for her, and she needed to make this album where it showed like just how versatile she is as an artist.
Mhm.
I think you do.
Yeah.
I think you had to do those two albums before you got to Janet.
Yeah, again, evolution. It's evolution of the artist, right? And like I like that you said she's multifaceted because she is one part sexy, she's one part crazy talented, she's one part wholesome. I mean, she's still I mean, that baby face that she had. Like, I don't care if you're male or female, to be blessed with that kind of skin and that smile and those eyes, and holy Lord, like
Yeah. I mean,
fucking
but when
nuts.
you think of all of those albums though, like the main single on all of those albums could not be any more different.
Mm,
Like the singles off of Janet are way different than singles off this album.
yeah.
The singles off of Velvet Rope are even more different.
Mm. Oh, good call. Yeah, for sure. And she's very much I kind of envision her in this, at least from the album cover and the 1814 or the Rhythm Nation video itself. It's kind of like her between phase of being like a young woman and then I don't want to say tomboy, but you know what I mean. And then
Yeah.
suddenly after the fact, she becomes Janet with the hair and everything. I'm like, wow, what a transformation.
Yeah. Um but yeah, I think it'd be fair, like if you call any artist like a chameleon, I feel like
Mm,
she is. Like she's done so many different styles of music. Um I mean, when you just look at all of like her different looks and her different presentation all over the years, like what a career. What an amazing career.
oh, dude. Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. Yeah, she's one of a kind, man, and that's saying something in a family full of talented people. Like these two get a lot of the press for very good reason, her and Michael. But let's don't forget the rest of this family was pretty crazy talented as well. Um, but it's overshadowed number one by the stuff with Michael. We won't get into that. It's overshadowed by the stuff with their dad. We don't have to get into that. But if we're just looking at it based purely on talent and what they achieved as individual artists and as a group, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. I mean, the stuff that she did with Michael in later years, I thought Scream was really well done. I was a real big fan of
Yeah.
that song as well. So, lots to get in here to today, kids. Let's dig into this album. So, there are some spoken word songs on this. I call them songs, but they're just little bits of talking and sort of setting up. Concept album is a great way to put this. We've done concept albums here on the show before. We've done Sergeant Pepper. We've done Dark Side of the Moon. We've done other things here that very much the idea of we're telling a story. We're building a narrative from the beginning of the album to the very end. We kick off this album with an interlude, and it's called Pledge. It only runs 47 seconds. Not a whole lot to say about this track, Phil. It basically just sets up the album. Any comments on Pledge?
No, but she does this throughout the album where it kind of tells you like what are the themes of the song is going to be afterwards.
Mm.
I think they serve their purpose. But I don't have anything really, really like deep to say about it other than that.
No, that's fair. I mean, it just sort of introduces it's her talking. It kind of introduces the album. So it kind of sets the tone. And I
Y-
mean, I appreciate stuff like that. But I mean, DMX did it a lot, dude, to be fair.
Yeah.
So
Um. Yeah. I think it kind of sets the tone of like this like futuristic like post apocalyptic theme that's throughout the album.
mm, yeah.
So it fits for that reason.
Is some of this stuff too much on the nose, you think? I mean, I put it this way. I'm sure you probably listened to this either today or yesterday or maybe both. Has it aged well for you?
It's fine. I mean, I can't imagine like when most people think of the albums, they think of all the interludes. They just think of the music.
Sure. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Um, Before we really tackle the meat of this, and we got to get to track one, and man, we got a lot to get here to today, as we said before. We have to take just a minute and talk about Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. You talk about two guys who, number one, the style. I mean, we know about the time, we know about the suits and the hats and the 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 top coats of the trench coats, dude, and the talent these guys have as a producing team. I mean, you said it earlier and you nailed it, man. Without these two guys, she doesn't really become, I believe, who she becomes throughout the rest of her career because they worked with her again later as well. Talk about the impact these two guys had on her, not only her, but other artists as well. They're phenomenal.
Pioneers, man.
Mm,
These guys are pioneers. Like, the sound of this album and the sound of that era does not happen without them. Like, New Jack Swing is not a thing without those two guys. I know Teddy Riley played a big part in it too. There are other artists that were influential in that sound and that style, but these guys were they made a massive impact on just not just the industry, but like we said, Janet Jackson's career.
mm. Yeah. I couldn't let us get very far without at least mentioning the impact these guys have. I mean, kids, if you're if you are of a certain age and are not very familiar with these two men, please go look them up. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. Again, as Phil said, I mean, they're pioneers, they're legends, they're walking legends. They're both still with us, which is great news. As of this recording, they're both still with us, which is awesome. Are they still active now? Because I have no idea.
I don't. I'm not sure if they are. They may be. I wouldn't be surprised if they've like produced something that we both go, oh yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they have won a total of 5 Grammys as two producers, as a producing team. They've been nominated numerous times, beginning in '87 and ending in 2016 was their latest. They were nominated. This album was nominated for Best Instrumental Arrangement and Accompanying Vocals in 1990. "Miss You Much" was voted or was nominated for Best R&B Song, and Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis and Janet Jackson were nominated for Producer of the Year in the same year for this album. So this album did some damage in terms of awards and whatnot, recognition. I didn't know that this album wasn't received very well at the outset. I couldn't have predicted that if you had told me. I would never have known that.
It's such a contrast from what she did on Control. I could kind of guess that.
Mm.
But of course, it's aged a lot better. But I think at that time, if you were expecting this album to be like her third album, I could see you being like confused.
Well, that's fair. I mean, all things being fair, I guess I kind of see that. I just
I mean,
remember, yeah,
because I mean, look at the album covers, for example. You pull up Control's album cover. It's big and colorful and vibrant. And it's like it's fun and inviting. And then you look at this one, and it's like dark, black and white. And it's like very like I said, post-apocalyptic, like
mm,
military and all this other stuff. Like, what's going on here? I can see people being confused.
love this album cover. It's crazy awesome, man.
Yeah.
Crazy awesome. She replicated it later too, I believe, for the 30th anniversary. It's her in the same outfit posed because I found that photo when looking for this stuff here. I mean, it's yeah, she still looks good. I'm sorry, like but I love this cover, man. I love the outfit. I love what she wears in the video for Rhythm Nation. Let's get to Rhythm Nation, kids. The first official track on this album is 5 minutes and 31 seconds. Dude, we could probably spend the next hour talking just about this song. This has got the sound. It's got a great hook. It's got the drums that we hear basically in every song on this album. A lot of, call it electronic, whatever you want to call it. But I mean, this song has a certain sound to it. I mean, she crushes it here. I mean, a heck of a way to kick this off. We've always said that Jay-Z always knows how to kick off an album because he just has a knack of doing that. Dude, what a way to kick off this album, man. What do you think about Rhythm Nation?
Um, Influential record.
Mm,
Big. I mean, I can see it not being received as well in terms of like the album and everything, and a change of approach of everything. But just thematically, what she does on this song in the video and just the song itself is just like I feel like that was just huge for her. It made her into a megastar. If she wasn't already a megastar, I feel like this is part of what put her in that conversation. Um, like I mean, production wise, like you said, the drums on it, very hip hop inspired drums, and then it has
mhm,
like the up tempo kind of like jazz, like blues kind of thing that you expect from Jimmy Jam and Terry, and we see that throughout this album. But you're talking about like a catchy beat, like you catch yourself like kind of like beatboxing it every time you hear it. Like
yeah, yeah.
this beat is perfect. Like I mean, I don't want to. I don't want to downplay Janet as well. I feel like you could have put a bunch of people on the same beat and it would have been a hit. Like the
Mm,
production on it is just that good. Now, it helped that you also put Janix on it, and Janet had a great vocal performance. The subject matter of it was also relevant.
mm,
Coming out of time period, this was like at the tail end of the 80s, coming into the 90s. And if you think about it, this is like a perfect kind of mash of what the sound was changing into from the 80s going into the 90s because hip hop was becoming more and more prevalent going into the 90s, and we were
mm,
coming out of like an era where everybody was trying to find a dance record or a big pop record. And this was kind of like a perfect fusion of those things happening at the same time.
Oh, great way to describe it. Fusion 100%. You mentioned New Jack Swing earlier. We've definitely got that here. And kids, if you know you're Sly and the Family Stone, and shame on you if you don't, then you recognize the sample for a thank you for letting me be myself again. So it's definitely hooked here. It's awesome. As we said, this song is a lot more than just a hook and her vocals. It's socially conscious. This is actually the second track released off the album. It peaked at number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 and reached the top of the dance club songs and hot R&B hip hop song charts. The video itself is freaking awesome, as we said before, directed by Dominic Sena, who actually directed Gone in 60 Seconds, Swordfish as well. So this is around the time, like 2000, 2001, a little bit later, about 11 years later, when he really got hot as like a film director. The choreography, Phil, I'm not a choreography guy. I'm not really a pop music guy. You know this about me. I Janet's my exception, man. I can't explain why. I'm just always a huge fan. So like her, it's different with her from me personally, but like it's on par. Everything in this video works. Everything in this song works. Hey, kids, Tom Clark here, and did you know the very podcast you're listening to right now is available on boinkstudios.com. BOINK, Boink Studios is the home of Tom Clark's Main Event, Tom Clark's 6M podcast, and Two Nations Under Ted, a Ted Lasso podcast. Visit the site today for links to every podcast platform, social media, special announcements, and a lot more. Check out the site and bookmark today, boinkstudios.com. I can't find one thing wrong with this song. Is there anything here that doesn't work for you at all?
No, I mean, this is one of those records that I feel like pushed her into another stratosphere. Um, and when you talk about her, and not just her vocal performance, but just her as an entertainer, her as a dancer, because I mean, when you think about her, you think of like Pleasure Principle, her like dancing in the mirror in the video, and you also think of this video of her dancing in formation with like the other people, and like the uh the video, just how the video looks, it's so striking and dynamic. And then you've got her in this military like uniform, and just the look of her and the dancers looks amazing. Just think of how many times people have tried to like replicate this look. um
Oh,
just
yeah.
offhand, I could think of how many times like Beyonce has tried to replicate kind of the idea of a song like this. Like um she has the Who Run the World record, where she kind of has like the same kind of like military, like drum style over it. And then you've got like Formation that is also very similar. I'm sure you've got like Britney Spears records that also try to kind of copy this same kind of style of record and do like the formation of women dancing behind her. Very, very influential record, very influential video as well.
And just think, the record label tried their best to talk her out of filming this video, and she insisted on doing it. Like, good for her, man. My goodness.
I mean, yeah, I mean, when you think about it, like this is a woman that went from making like these big poppy dance records, and she's making this socially conscious record with no colors in the video, all black and white, and then she's dancing completely covered up. I can see them like, what are we doing? What is this?
And you know, I think there's good reason to pick this album apart and go and go a little deeper. I think it's a statement, Phil, that this video is in black and white versus in full color.
Yes, I think it goes with not just the style of this album, with the style of music they're making. Um, there's something vintage about it, and that's where you get the black and white. And then when you have the post-apocalyptic stuff, there's something so like relevant and fresh at that time, where it felt like it was a little bit of old and a little bit of what's present and what's the future. There's so many things that I think they did with this that are just brilliant.
Yeah, 100% agree. And again, this is the second single. Wasn't even the first single release. Miss You Much was the first single release, which, I mean, it's a great song, but like
Yeah,
you kind of think, Phil, did the record label have a say in that as well? So,
yeah. I mean, among the first, I'd say eight or nine records on this album that are actual songs, not the interludes. All of them are hits.
they are hit. Oh my God, there's not a forgettable song on this album. Not at all. Not at all. So speaking of interludes, The third entry on this album isn't interlude. It's just called TV. And it's basically just someone just changing the channels, and you can hear just an assorted variety of clips in the background. Again, not a whole lot to talk about here, but it just kind of sets the stage and it continues the narrative of this album. Track 4, which is another actual track, is called State of the World. And man, you talk about following up the actual first track on this, man, she does it in style here. I mean, this is a really, really good song. The song runs for 4 minutes and 47 seconds. What's your take on State of the World?
You can very much tell that the same guys that produced My Prerogative and had the same sound. It's here. Like if you listen to it, had the same kind of do 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 do
I was
do
thinking
do do
Rub You
do.
the Right Way by Johnny Gill.
It has the same like New Jack Swing kind of
Yeah.
style, like
Yeah.
where Rub You the Right Way and My Prerogative have that same kind of bass line to it. And when you listen to it now, it's just like, yeah, what that time period. But at the time, it was so new and fresh, man. Like, I mean, who would have guessed at that time, like R&B and just adding like what other guys were doing with hip hop, and that would work. That would be this thing that just completely changed music. But here we are.
I mean, of all the trends that I like to see come back, I would love to see New Jack Swing really come back and have a renaissance, man. Has that happened? Have I missed it already? Am I too late?
I'm sure some people still do some things in that vein, but you don't see it nearly as much.
Yeah, that's a shame. We were talking about the interlude before this, kids. Apparently, the changing of the TV actually did inspire this song. It focuses lyrically on homeless people. It was released as the eighth and final single from the album. Dude, Phil, I mean, look, we may not mention this to begin with. This entire album has a total of 20 tracks.
Mhm.
And let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the 20, like 7, 8 aren't even songs, they're interludes. And then there's 8 freaking singles released off this album, man. That's pretty impressive.
8 singles is wild. How many people get that many hit records on one album? It's kind of
How many
unheard of now.
how many people get that in a career?
Yeah, that's also
Ooh,
true.
crazy, crazy. I'm a fan of this song. I don't know if it's my favorite song on the album. My favorite song is Down the Road for me. But man, this is really good. Instantly recognizable, especially if you were a fan during that time and in the years following. I mean, it's really good. Her songwriting is really starting to become a thing here, man. You can tell that she's growing up and she's maturing. Social issues mean a lot to this girl, like as well they should. And dude, again, Phil, we're talking about the Jackson family. These folks have
Yeah.
been rich for a heck of a long time, which, hard work and effort get you there, kids. That's shock and awe. I mean, surprise, surprise, work hard, you get rewarded, right? But like, she didn't rest on that money, Phil. Never. Like, she could have sat back and not done any of this, but she carved out a niche, man, especially with this album, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, and the other 2 songs that I mentioned that have the same sound and My Prerogative or Rub You the Right Way, it would have been really easy to take this beat and come with like a love song or come with like
Mm.
something catchy that's like a club record, and she chose to come with like something socially conscious on this record as well. She decided to talk about poverty and the state of the world that you kind of don't always see on the news. That was a risk, and I thought it worked here.
It does work. And, I asked you earlier if it had aged well for you. Some of these songs sounds like they could be written today, dude. Like the subject matter of this tune in particular.
Yeah, it's a
Phil, not much has gotten better since she released this album, dude.
it's a very much like a Marvin Gaye, What's Going On, or like
Ooh,
so
yeah.
many other contemporaries that had done similar socially conscious records. But again, doing that on like this like poppy dance record was a risk. It's
Mm.
definitely a bold choice.
So in the US, this song was apparently released as a radio only single and therefore ineligible to chart on the Billboard Hot 100 and Hot R&B hip hop songs. However, it peaked at number 5 on the US Billboard Hot 100 airplay. And if you can make sense of all that, good on you, because that's a lot to absorb.
Yeah.
But yeah, crazy. The song's a hit, kids. What more can I tell you? The song's an absolute hit. It takes us to another interlude, and this interlude is in the fifth spot on the album. This one is called Race. Only lasts 4 seconds, but buddy, if you don't feel what she says here, it's a gunshot. We're in a race between education and catastrophe. Holy Lord. I mean, dude, that says it all right there. I mean, that gets your attention, man. I don't want to gloss over this interlude. I mean, again, that's something pretty intense to put on this album, and we'll get some more of that later as well. But like, dude, if you weren't paying attention when you first listened to this, you're paying attention now, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I just think we're in that phase of her career where Michael has started to do stuff where he had a message. I mean, he had really started doing that early in his career, but towards the end of the 80s, it became more in vogue to be socially conscious and speak on some of these subjects. Um, but just thinking about this album, and the first 3 records on this album are so up tempo, and she's choosing to also say some pretty heavy stuff on it. That's why I'm like, when you say that it wasn't received that well initially, I can kind of see that. I can kind of see people turning this on and like nodding their head with like these heavy hitting percussions, and then it's just like, yeah, we're in a race. It's like, well, hold on. I gotta stop for a second to actually take that in. Like it's taking me out of vibe of like wanting to nod my head to this beat.
Yeah, I can see that too. And plus, the people can get all kinds of certain ways about who the messenger is. I mean,
Yeah,
look, let's be honest. A lot of white dudes don't care for a black woman bringing a social message to them because, people are dumb, which I'm not suggesting there's a lot of that here, but I'm sure there's some of it. I mean, who's reviewing albums, who's writing these articles, who's working for, Rolling Stone magazine. I'm just saying, Phil, I'm just throwing it out there.
yeah. But yeah, I think it's a great record. Funny enough, every time I think of like other records from that time period, I can hear like the same sound in it. Um, this kind of reminds me of Any Heartbreak. Like I just immediately think of my man. She got it going, got it going, got it going on.
Yes. Yes.
It has kind of like the same sound to it, but I just think that this was the sound of that era moving forward out of the 80s.
Yeah. Yeah. The Knowledge is at position number 6, 3 minutes, 53 seconds. I mean, man, I love the sound of this track, dude. Once again, it's, as we said before about the education bit, it addresses the importance of education in different ways. It goes along with the rhythm nation of the song itself, just like State of the World and Living in a World They Didn't Make It. And, described as the social commentary part of the record, which I'm good with that. What do you think about the call and response that she does in this song?
I love it. I love the lyrics of this record. I love the sound of it. Um, it does make you think like this album came out. I was probably 4 years old. um,
Stop.
but just that time period and just how different music was, it just almost feels like it was a simpler time.
Mhm.
It's just like I kind of missed this time period where like this was like the overarching sound for a lot of music, and it was just that simple. Like this is what it is, and call and response in music is always going to work. I mean, I suppose it is what you're calling and responding people to do, but for the most part, it usually works.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. Yeah. Prejudice, no. Ignorance, no. Bigotry, no. Illiteracy, no. Yeah. It's a good song. I think this may be one of her more well-known, maybe not as a whole, but I think her fans, they would point to this song for sure as one of the songs they maybe automatically think of when they think of her, if only for the call and response. It did make it memorable, if nothing else, Phil.
Yeah.
So, position, I keep calling it position because it's not really a track. Position number 7 is Interlude called Let's Dance. And all it says is, get the point? Good. Let's dance. I'm okay with that. It's
Yeah, I
awesome.
I really love that she started off the album and she had like came in immediately with something to say, and then she was like, "All right, now that I've got that out the way, let's have some fun."
It feels very much like side 2 starting, doesn't it?
It does in some ways, but it wouldn't work if the songs that followed it didn't have the same sound. Um,
Oh, dude,
it,
yeah, yeah.
it doesn't detract from the initial sound of the album. The subject matter just changed.
Mm, yeah, can't argue with that. Yeah, can't argue with that at all. So the track that she's going to dance to here, kids, is Miss You Much. As we said before, it's the first single released off this album. 4 minutes and 12 seconds for this track. I mean, Phil, again, there's a lot of Janet songs that she'll be remembered for and that folks will probably recall off the top of their head. This has got to be one of them. I mean, is all right. Do you have a favorite track on the album? And if so, is this one it?
Uh, I do have a favorite a song on the album. This is not it, but
Hmm,
this song was massive for Janet.
thought it was.
Massive single, and first single off the album, like you said. It would have been very easy to sit around and go, ah, well, pretty big record. But then you just follow it up with 2 or 3 other records that are also big records. But this was a colossal record for her. Very catchy record. Um, I think throughout this album, the thing that works is not just the production is really good. Um, they've got some great hooks on this, and this is one of them. The hook is just so good. The hook makes this record. Um, if you're just looking for like dance records off this album, and there are several of them,
Mm,
this one is like perfect in every way. Production, um, they say catchy, memorable hook. One of her best records. I think if you're coming up with like a list of Janet records, they're like her big career highlights. This has to be on there.
has to be. Has to be. The video again directed by Dominic Sena, the gentleman we spoke of earlier, directed Rhythm Nation, and the funny tidbit about this, and I didn't remember this at all, but apparently this track entered the Billboard Hot 100 at number 42, and after 3 weeks, it entered the top 10, and then here comes Madonna with "Cherish." I know which song I'd rather hear. I'm just saying, moved to the top 5 the same week, and then the media goes at it and starts basically pitting these 2 against each other, trying to create some sort of weird rivalry, which is, I guess that's fine, whatever. But the song eventually topped on October 7th, 1989. The same week, "Cherish" peaked at number 2. So we can say Janet won this round for sure. It was the biggest airplay hit of the year and 5th biggest overall, also peaking atop the Hot Dance Club Play and Hot R&B Hip Hop Song charts. It was the second best selling single of the year, behind only Phil Collins' "Another Day in Paradise." I find it funny, Phil, that it's behind only another song that's a social commentary song. I mean, this seemed to be the
Yeah.
year for that stuff, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, this song it's a great song, kids. I mean, it again, if you want to know about her during this era, I mean, this is the song that you listen to. Uh, she did receive multiple awards for the song, including Billboard Award for Top Hot 100 Single of the Year, a Soul Train Music Award for Best Female R&B Single, and 2 American Music Awards for Favorite Soul R&B Single and Favorite Dance Single. So yeah, it's excellent. It's actually the video is really good too, man. I'm a fan
Yeah.
of the video as well.
Yeah. A lot of really good videos out of this album. And I think
Oh,
that
for
is
sure.
definitely something that she picked up from Michael, where Michael, when he came and he wrote out an album, it wasn't just that you knew the music was going to be good, but he was going to come out with the videos that were eye catching. He was going to come out with the thematic stuff. Like there's a movie I think attached to this album, correct, where it like
Yes.
links a bunch of the videos together, and that was kind of the thing coming out of the '80s. Music videos was the thing. That was the era of MTV first like becoming big, and um, it was unthinkable. You could not have big singles without like a big video to promote it.
That's fair. That's the impact of MTV on the industry, Phil. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. I mean, as we said before, this thing was nominated for a Grammy as well. And then, um, let's don't get too far into the weeds here, Phil, without mentioning that this album as a whole is certified 6 times platinum in the United States. I mean, that's whew,
Well deserved.
well deserved. My God, what a good album. So we're carrying on here, kids. We are moving now to spot number 9. This is the interlude is called Come Back. This is only 20 seconds. Again, Phil, maybe not a whole lot to say here about this potential or this interlude. It's got a little bit of classical in it, nice little strings in the background. And now we're gonna get to the sexy part of the album, I guess you could say. Not a lot going on in this because it leads us to another hit, Phil, another freaking hit. Track number 10, Love Will Never Do Without You. 5 minutes and 50 seconds on this track, dude. What is your opinion? What's your take on this song?
Great record. Another really, really good hook, really catchy hook. Harmony on this. So again, you hear this and you'll catch yourself humming it later because it's just so catchy. Um, Great record. It's a departure in terms of like subject matter up to this point because it's like the most like defined love record coming forward.
Mm.
But what a really, really good record. Really, really well written, great production. Um, Big hit as well. Like no surprise. Like I said, the first 8 or 9 records on this album are hits.
It's so good. Like, I mean, it's hard to every song that we come to, I go to read notes and it's freaking insane. It's the 7th single release. Dude, they had 6 other songs released before they even got to this one. Like, holy God, it's crazy. It's Janet's 5th number 1 hit on the Billboard Hot 100 and was certified gold. It was also the 7th single from the album, as we said, to reach the U.S. top 5, making her the first artist to have that many top 5 hits from one album, which
Yeah.
is nuts. Nuts. And again, another video accompanying this, and it's described as a body confident Janet Jackson. I'd say that. I'd agree with that. But I mean, honestly, if you look at this song and this video, you can very much see the album Janet coming down the road, dude. You can see the
Yeah.
connective tissue happening here for sure.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I think you needed that in between Control and Janet. That this was the album like, oh yeah, Janet is an adult. Like
Mm.
this isn't just coming of age Janet anymore. Janet is an adult.
Yeah, the video was actually directed by Herb Ritz, American fashion photographer and director known for his photographs of celebrities and models. But apparently he got into video work during this time as well. And yeah, again, everything about this is very, very memorable. And the video, if you guys remember, Antonio Sabato Jr. and Damon Honsu, and I had actually forgot he was in this. Oh my God, I totally forgot he was in this video. So there you go. Crazy, crazy. There's some Marvel connected tissue there for you, Phil. That's pretty cool. So yeah, again, I'm a big fan of this song, man. But again, it's not my favorite. I mean, that one's still coming. But again, man, like if you're paying attention, kids, this stuff's getting real. This girl's for real. This is not a one hit wonder. This is not, she's going to go away anytime soon. And she's definitely no longer Michael's sister at this point. She is becoming her own artist and deservedly, rightfully so, for sure. So that is going to bring us to the next track, which is Living in a World They Didn't Make at 4 minutes, 41 seconds. So um, we are coming again, we're sort of going back, I would say to some degree about the social commentary here. What's your take on Living in a World They Didn't Make?
I think it's a good record. It's like the first ballad on the record.
Mm,
Um, so it's very slow when compared to all the songs that came before it that are very kind of up tempo. Um, and I think because of that, I could see it being an easy skip for a lot of people.
mm.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those records where you kind of have to be in the mood for it.
Yeah, that's fair.
But that's not to say that it is a bad record or a forgettable record. It's just up to this point. If you are just in the mood to be put something on and just kind of nod along with it, like even if you're just in the car or something, I could see you like skipping to the next record.
Yeah, I mean it's not intense. I won't call this one intense, but like, um, well, it's intense at the end. Holy God, it gets intense in the end. But this song is basically all about the kids here, and you know the lyrics are pretty on point, on the nose, in a good way. Not to criticize it or anything like that, because I don't believe
Yeah.
that's what this is. I mean, it's you know, it's hard to talk about this song, Phil, without getting to the end, because we've seen what's happened in this country in the years since this album was released. How school shootings have just, Phil, at this point they happen. We don't even, we read it, we see it, we cry, we shake our heads, and we know that nothing's going to get any better, and then we go on about our day and go have a cheese sandwich or whatever it is we're doing with our life. Like it's crazy, man. And this song is, talk about timely. I mean, the
Yeah.
spoken outro of this song, dude, will put chills down your spine for sure.
Yeah. I think it's one of Janet's best vocal performances on the album.
And that's fair. Yeah.
I think the message, like you said, is very relevant. Still to this day. Another clear tie to Marvin Gaye towards the end of it when she's doing the Save the Babies, which is
Yeah.
big hallmark of the What's Going On album.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, like I said, I think it's a great record, but I can see if you're not in that mood for it, I can see you skipping it. It's a little depressing.
It is a little depressing. I like the comparison to Marvin here, and like, you know, we've done What's Going On here on the 6N Kids. Go check it out. I think you'll dig that episode. I say we had fun, but we had the good kind of fun with that episode because it's such a great freaking album. I mean, I definitely see connections here between her and Marvin and the stuff that she's saying, but you know, Janet also is I never considered Marvin a pop artist, Phil, but Janet
No.
is. So like you're going to get a little bit of everything with her album versus Marvin Gaye for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can see your point about maybe possibly this being a skip, because again, kids, it's very heavy. We go from that song, however, to track number 12, which is All Right. And dude, talk about a stark contrast in
Yeah.
that song versus this one. This one is 6 minutes and 26 seconds, which is the longest, you know, track on the album by far, at least beating the other one by 25 seconds, beating Some Days Tonight. Um, Again, another, to me, I don't know if this would be one of her more memorable songs, but I know it automatically.
Yeah.
What's your take on All Right?
It's either my second favorite or tied with my favorite record on the album.
Mm.
Love All Right. Great record. Great dance record. Another great hook.
Mm.
It has like this vibe to it, even in the breakdowns towards the end of it, because it's one of the longest songs on the album, where you have extended parts of it that felt like jam sessions. Um, really, really great record. Love this record, man. Every time I hear it, I can't like help but just like stop and listen to the whole thing. Really love the video as well. It's one of those that ties like the connections to New Jack Swing and some of its roots together, because you've got like the zoot suits and stuff in the video.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
Big fan of this video.
Yeah. Oh, so good. So good. Yeah, this very much, we've said the words New Jack Swing a bunch, but man, you totally, you hear it everywhere on this album, but man, you can really hear it here. I mean,
Yes.
it's so good. Based around a James Brown vocal sample from the Lynn Collins track Think About It. So Janet delivers a funky New Jack Swing, as we said before. This single peaked at number 4 in the Billboard Hot 100. It is actually the fourth single release from this album, and it was actually her fourth consecutive single to top the Dance Club Songs chart, breaking a record held by Madonna. Back to this Madonna connection there, Phil. It was remixed several times with one version featuring rapper Heavy D, which I actually remember that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love the heavy D
So,
verse.
oh man, classic.
But I mean, like when you listen, man, it's so wild to think about like just how this changed the times. Like this album and how many albums around it had like the same song. Like if you just think in your head like this song and think of the intro to In Living Color, and
Oh
just
my
think of
God.
how similar some of the sounds of it in it are.
Wow, it does. That's crazy. Yeah. I don't know if I would have put that together, but yeah, dude, you're totally right, man.
But that was just how much things changed, and, like, that was the sound moving into the '90s, like,
Mm,
this was just such a, like, breakthrough sound moving into that time period.
mm, yeah. And, you mentioned the video, Cab Calloway's in this, dude, the legendary Cab Calloway. That crazy? Just to say that
Yes.
you were holy Lord, just to be able to say that that's on your resume, that's crazy, man. That's crazy. Um, yeah, it was actually one of his last on-screen appearances is this video.
Yeah.
So,
Very
yeah.
fitting, when you think of the theme of this video and everything. Yeah. Very fitting for him to be in it.
Mm, yeah, for sure. Again, another highly memorable song, and, it's just I don't know, man, to me, it states what this album is in terms of her coming of age and her embracing, let's be honest, her embracing her sexuality, but also embracing, "I'm an adult now, I'm no longer a kid, I'm no longer Penny," right?
Yeah.
I'm now doing my thing, which a lot of people say Control was that, but Control kind of felt like, in my opinion, Control felt like, "I gotta say this now, I gotta do this, this is what I gotta do." And, like, to me, this album is more like, I don't really have to tell you who I am, I'm just gonna show you.
Yeah, Control was very much a transition. That was the coming of
Mm,
age album, but this album was just her not just fully formed as an adult, but fully formed as an artist. Because she showed you so many different facets of her artistry, whether it be her vocal performances, her songwriting, and then the videos and everything. Just the creativity that went into the video, the choreography.
mm,
Um, I mean, she had already proven herself as a dancer, but like
yeah.
I mean, the fact that she was making these incredible records and then coming in the videos and having like these fantastic dance performances as well. Like, who else? Like, it's not that many other people that were in her on her level.
Oh, dude, you said it right. You said it right. I'm laughing because in my ears, I'm hearing the next interlude, which is "Hey Baby." Do we know, like, is this her as an adult with that little bit of vocal in the interlude? Is this her as a kid?
I don't know. Good question.
Because it kinda sounds like it's her as a kid, but I don't know that for sure, and the only thing she says is, "Hey, baby, don't get me in here acting silly now. You're not taping this, are you?" So, a little bit of playfulness from her. Um, that leads us to track 14, and buddy, if you don't know track 14, kids, then you don't know Janet Jackson. 4 minutes and 44 seconds, this is Escapade. This is as memorable of a song as she ever did. I mean, it's You know, again, it's hard to talk about this album without this song in particular. What's your take on Escapade?
Um, Another really, really great record. Another big hit for her. No shocker. Um, yeah, I love this record as well. Not as much as All Right, but it's in the same vein. It A lot of the things I like about All Right are also what I like about Escapade. Really, really good dance record. Really good hook as well. Fantastic production. I mean, I don't want to repeat a bunch of the things we said earlier in this album, but a lot of this album is great for the same reasons. Like they hit a bunch of home runs on this album for
Mm.
the very same reason.
Oh, yeah, dude. I mean, and we are repeating ourselves quite a bit, but man, it's just everything's working here. Everything's clicking. I mean, no doubt about it. Escapade is the third single from this album. It topped the Billboard Hot 100 for 3 weeks, becoming the second number one pop single from the album, along with the lead single Miss You Much. It achieved gold status and topped the Billboard Dance Club songs. She owned that chart at this time, kids, if you're not
Yes,
picking up on the theme here. Oh my God. It was
yes,
partially inspired by the 1965 hit Nowhere to Run by Martha and the Vandellas, which Janet considered covering for the album. Producer Jimmy Jam recalls how hearing the word escapade in a conversation led to the song's composition. He said, quote, "We usually come up with the music first, then we try to think of a title that fits the way the music sounds. And escapade we thought was a cool word. It is kind of old fashioned. People don't really say let's go on an escapade anymore, but it really worked with that track."
yeah.
So they had the title first and then built the song around it, which is awesome.
Did not know that. The other thing that's striking about this song is I don't think that it's so much a departure from the sound. But you can hear like the Minneapolis influence like a lot more on this record and the next record. I feel like it's very prominent in Escapade and the next record. Because when I hear this song, you can hear Prince's influence. Like it's impossible to not hear Prince's influence on it.
I was
Like
just gonna say I could imagine him singing on this.
yes, yes, it
Oof.
sounds very much like production wise like a Prince record.
Yeah. I mean, talk about a guy that's setting the bar, Phil, every time he did an album. I mean, holy Lord, that's Prince for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah. Great stuff. Good call, too. Yeah, by the way, it's awesome. Yeah, again, love this song. I can listen to it on repeat basically for hours, honestly. I really love this song, but, like, again, it's not my favorite,
yeah,
uh, but we're getting there for sure. So, again, folks, another classic. I'm just saying, like, we just continue to just throw them at you during the review of this album. Track number 15 is another interlude. This is called No Acid, and the only thing she says is, "Ain't no acid in this house." So that's all we got here. That's all we got. Chew on that.
hmm.
And then we get to track number 16, which is my favorite track on the album. This is Black Cat. I freaking love this song. Phil, I think this song holds up. I think if R&B went away today and everything that sounds like this was gone forever, Black Cat would always stand the test of time, not
Yes,
because of the guitar, but just because of the hook and her vocals. Everything about it's awesome.
yes. Black Cat is also my favorite record on the album. Um, it's incredible, and I mean, again, uh, Minneapolis vibes. You get the legend Jelly Bean Johnson on here,
Yep.
helping with production. I believe this is the first song so far that Jimmy Jam and Terry did not produce. It's produced. I believe Janet has a production credit on it, and Jelly Bean Johnson. But this is in a lot of ways Janet's Dirty Diana. This is
Mm.
this is Janet doing glam rock, and it sounds incredible.
It sounds incredible. Oh, it's so good. I love the Dirty Diana comparison, by the way. It's freaking
Yes,
very appropriate.
I've said before, either off mic on other platforms that um, Mike missed a chance where he could have been a rock vocalist, and it would have been great. He has
Mm.
he has maybe 2 or 3 rock songs that I'm like, I would have taken an entire rock album from him. I think Bad is the closest we got to it.
Yeah.
But even that's not really a rock record. It's a pop record. Um, but like listening to this, like you can see her doing things that Tina Turner did. You can see her being like
Ooh.
a big rock vocalist.
Dude, love that comparison to Tina. I'm here for that. That's very, very good. Yeah. I mean, oh, God, it's my favorite song on this album, dude. I just can't get enough. I can listen to this thing all day. 4 minutes
Yeah.
and 50 seconds. Jelly Bean's on this, as is Janet, as you mentioned before. Both those, I mean, just Jelly Bean Johnson, legend in his own right. I mean, and honestly, Phil, let's be real. This was turning the heads of rock bands at that time who, of course, knew Janet, but maybe didn't listen or whatever. But man, I think this opened the door to a whole other segment of audience that came to the table for no other reason because how wonderful the guitar is and how much this song just cooks, man.
Yeah. Great record. Yeah, easily my favorite record. I mean, it's just something about it. The way it starts with like the big cat growl at the beginning, just
Oh,
the her vocals on it, the production on it. Of course, Jelly Bean on guitar. His guitar solo is incredible.
mm.
Great record.
It's the sixth single. I want everybody to stop and pause for a second and just realize there were 5 other songs released before this. Like that's the pecking order of greatness that is this album. My
And
God.
and none of them sound like this song.
None of them.
None of them sound like Black Cat. That's why I say again, she's got so many big records that sound nothing like this. Like, and she's captured like so many time periods of like the club and what you heard in the club, what you heard at certain parties. Like, when you think of like We Go Deep, like that is a party
Mm,
record, but it sounds nothing like the big dance records on this album.
yeah. Yeah, well said. We've done all 3 Blueprint albums here, kids, and we did. I think Blueprint 2 was a 2-parter, The Gift and the Curse, and our reviews on that were very mixed because we said, we know what he's going for, but maybe he doesn't stick the landing in terms of I'm gonna throw this is different, this is different, this is different.
Tom Clark 6M Podcast is sponsored in part by Radius Law Group. Every day, Radius helps individuals, families, small businesses, and nonprofit organizations throughout North Carolina, Florida, and Pennsylvania resolve their legal issues by providing effective legal counsel in the areas of estate planning, as well as elder law and Medicaid. Radius Law holds the radical belief that working with a lawyer can indeed be enjoyable. So give them a call at 1-800-519-5667 for more information and tell them that Tom Clark 6M Podcast sent you.
This is an example with Janet here, Phil, of her coming at you from different angles on various tracks, and she sticks the landing on every one. It's crazy.
Yes. It definitely feels like coming away from this album, like this woman can do anything. She can do anything she wants. She can make a rock record if she wants. She can make dance records. She can make socially conscious records. She can dance anybody out the building.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do with this woman.
It was nominated for a Grammy Award in the Best Female Rock Vocal Performance category. Let's just all embrace that for a moment, making her the only artist to be nominated in 5 different genres.
Amazing.
Whew. R&B, rock, rap, dance, and rock. The song reached number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, the 3rd single from the album to achieve that status. And I love the message is very simple. The chorus behind her is great. It's very simple rock. It's just a simple rock song, Phil. There's nothing like a simple rock song. It's great.
Yes.
And it's awesome.
There's just something so cool about a woman being a rock vocalist. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, some of my favorite bands ever, male vocalists. But there's something that women bring to rock music that just, it's irreplaceable. I mean, at the Grammys this weekend, Paramore won for Best Rock Album. I believe they were the first band with a female front woman. That's that's repetitive, of course. The first right. Album with like a front woman to win a Best Rock Album. And when I thought about it, I was like, really? That hasn't happened yet? How's that possible?
Oh my goodness, 2024. Like, I would have thought Joan Jett at one point would have gotten close. Like, that's crazy,
man. But yeah, Paramore, of course, is popular group. Big shout outs to them. Well deserved.
Yeah. What's cool here, kids, is that Jimmy Jam was the one that made this song happen. He says, quote, "One night I told her I wanted her to sound like a rock and roll queen on it. She usually uses one of her other voices to sing R&B funk. And this, you wanted it to be funky, but more rocked out. That's what I was trying to get her to do. And she did it in 1 or 2 takes." Like, what? That's crazy. She actually used a real black leopard during her concerts until some fans became concerned about the cat's welfare. Let's don't worry about. You see how funny that sounds, dude? Like, what?
I hope she wasn't doing what Cody did and like play pyros and scare the poor cat.
That's it exactly. Yeah.
Is that really what happened?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. She said at the time, while the illusion with the cat was appreciated by most of the audience, if it caused even a few people to worry about the safety of the cat, it's not worth keeping it. So they had it put down after that. I'm just kidding. That part I made up. That's not funny.
No, but no animals were harmed in the performance of Black Cat.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, let's don't worry about the girl singing it, Phil, or the band. Let's don't worry about the crowd in the audience. Let's don't worry. I don't know. Let's don't worry about that. I mean, I get it. I love animals. Look, I got 3 cats at home. Everybody relax. I'm just making a point. I mean, there was another version of this released, Phil, with Vernon Reid on guitar from Living Colour.
Wow.
And have you heard that version?
I have not.
I love me some Vernon Reid. Not as good as this one. Believe it or not, it's not as good. That's my opinion. I know that I think he performed on stage with her maybe more than one time doing, his version of it. Again, much love for Living Colour, but yeah, I don't think it matches this.
That makes sense because there are a lot of similarities to this album and Living Color's album because like the social consciousness, like just like the style of the interludes and just how some of the songs play into each other. That does make sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And she did perform this live. We haven't talked much about the MTV Video Music Awards because why would we? But it was her debut performance in the ceremony. And then during the performance, the singer, according to this, she ripped open her top to expose a black bra underneath. And boy, does that come into play years later, Phil.
Yes.
But
again, the I Get Lonely video, we all know.
And plus the Super Bowl stuff with, your boy
yeah.
Justin Timberlake. I'm just
saying.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
left her completely holding it back. Shame on you, Justin Timberlake.
Shame on you, Justin Timberlake. And shame on dudes everywhere for getting pissed off at a woman for, look, men can take their shirt off all day. No one cries about it. I don't get the double standard.
I remember where I was when it happened. And I was just like, wait.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a double take. Yeah.
It feels like if you ever seen Boomerang and they're doing editing for the commercial. And the guy that's doing the editing, he's just like, is that a nipple? I don't think that's a nipple. And then he's like, yes, a nipple because I'm drooling.
That's great. Oh, that's really good. Well, we come off the high of that song and we are back to yet another track that is totally different than the one that came before it. This is Lonely at spot number 17 at 4 minutes, 59 seconds. This is Janet back to her soft touch, more of her sultry lyrics. What do you think about the song Lonely?
Not one of my favorites on the album. I think that it's a good song, but it's skippable for me. I think it's a good record, but when you compare it to most of the rest of the album, I can't say that that's the song that jumps out at me when I think of this album.
I have to agree. It's not a favorite of mine either. It's just, but having said that, she's wonderful on it. Her performance is great. Like, dude, she can sing anything, as she's proven here on this album, on every track. It's still a good song, but like you said, compared to the other ones, would this have been a hit off of another album of hers? Probably, maybe. You know what I mean? But maybe not here. So yeah, it's again, and that's not to suggest that there's nothing here worth listening to, folks. It's just when held to the others. Yeah, it's basically just a ballad. It's just what is described as a comforting ballad about always being there for someone special.
Yeah.
So there you go. Not a whole lot of time to spend on that one, kids. We go to now track number 18 or spot number 18. This has Come Back to Me at 5 minutes and 32 seconds. And it's another long song. So this is, I don't think this was it. Yeah, I think this was released as a single. Again, another slow one, but a little bit more recognizable for me, especially. What makes this song different than Lonely that came before? Why is this a better track, you think?
It's the best ballad on the album by far. I think like the harmony on it is really, really good. Production is great. I've made a few comparison allusions to New Edition, but again, it's hard to not hear the comparisons and like that sound of music. Like when you think of like Can You Stand the Rain, it sounds very similar to this, does it not?
It does actually. Yeah, for sure.
Not saying that they're carbon copies or anything, but you could just tell like the same like idea went into some of these songs. You can tell that this was kind of change of theme and sound at that time period. Really, really good record. Love the chorus to it. Really, really good vocal performance on it as well. You can tell why this was chosen as one of the big radio records. This was chosen as, I'm sure, one of the other singles on the album. Yeah. It's one of the slower songs on the album, but it's very, very good.
Yeah, very good. You're 100%. And it was the 5th single released off this album. And yeah, it's really good. So one of the little tidbits about this is Jimmy Jam claimed at the time they did it, it was one of his favorite songs. He loved the lyrics and the vocals on it, but he also loved the strings. So like, that's pretty cool. But Because I mean, dude, look, let's be honest. We've both listened to a lot of music through the years, and sometimes strings fit, and other times you're like, why are there strings on this record? But man, they at their best, strings will complement a singer's voice. Oh my
Mhm.
God.
Yeah.
This just sounds like a dream, which sounds hokey, right? But man, everything just works so well on this record together, doesn't it?
Yeah. I definitely think it's one of the best records on the album. Like I don't think that's a stretch.
I agree. Yeah, the song reached number 2 on both the U.S. Billboard Hot 100 and on the U.S. Hot R&B Hip Hop Songs chart. Man, this is a mouthful. Becoming another top 5 single from the album. It also became her first and so far only number 1 hit on the U.S. Adult Contemporary chart. She's even hitting that chart, dude. Are you kidding me?
Again, you come away from this album feeling like there's nothing she can't do.
Yeah. Oof, man. Video again directed by Dominic Sena. They had a nice little partnership happening. The video is set in Paris, France, and another. It's like a beautiful video, man. Like it's really good stuff here. I mean, the song has been covered. It's live performances and covers through the years. But man, let me tell you something. You cover whoever you want to, kids. But man, Janet is an original in every sense of the word, and like it's evident on this song for sure. And we're not even done. Like we're not even done here. We still got 2 tracks left. Well, we got 1 track left, and then wrapping up with an interlude. So we're almost to the end here. So in the 19th spot, Someday Is Tonight. And I'm going to tell you something. Her delivery on this song, brother, let me just say this. Janet Jackson calls you and says, and she said, dude, I've been waiting for you. Don't say anything. There's something I want to say to you. When I said someday we'd be together, someday is tonight, brother, I'm telling you, you're there. I'm sorry. Like, I'm just saying this song is, dude, is this a weird way to end the album after all the socially, you know, conscious lyrics and songs throughout this album? Or is it okay to end here? What's your thoughts on that?
No, because I think that the main theme of this album, other than not just the social consciousness and like some of the other things, is that Janet Jackson is an adult.
Mm.
And when you get to the end of this record, you very much see
Yeah.
this woman is an adult, and you can see the transition, as you spoke of earlier, to the next album. You can very much see that in this song.
Oh man, boy, let me tell you. Ooh. Yeah, it's an interesting record. We're all adults here, kids. I don't mean to sound like a juvenile 16-year-old or anything weird. It's a good song. Like it
Yeah.
again, dude, like you said, she sets her mind to a certain topic or a certain style or a certain vibe, a certain feel. She nails it every time. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, when you're talking about how she is very convincing. It's almost like the Beyonce record, Cuff It, when she sings Can I Sit on Top of You? And it's like, do I have to answer this question? Really? Is this like a rhetorical question?
Stop playing. Stop playing with me. Yeah. That's oof. Yeah. I mean, look, it's good for her. Like that's what I'll
Good
tell
for
you.
her.
Well, here I'm gonna follow that. I'm gonna follow that with this. Again, I should know because I'm a dude. A lot of dudes out there have a real problem with a strong woman, a woman who's confident in herself and who she is, and like in my opinion, Phil, some artists take advantage of that, and they, the music sounds hollow as a result, and it's gimmicky. There's nothing gimmicky about this song. Like you said, this is who she is. She's a freaking adult. Like, let's just get over ourselves. And like we said, she's no longer Penny from Good Times. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a bunch of artists that have been in a limelight since they were very young, and we've seen
mm,
them transition into adulthood. And sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it very, very much feels contrived. Like off the top of my head, like we saw when Miley did it. We saw how Miley went from like Disney kid to like twerking on stage and all of these things, and
mhm.
um, it it didn't really work as well. But I feel like the thing that makes these two albums from her, these two albums being Control and Rhythm Nation, um, I think that she made such a seamless transition from, child star, child actress to adult, and it never felt like a gimmick, like you said. It never felt contrived. The music is good, and then all of this felt very genuine, very natural.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, you could argue all day, Phil, that the stuff she did later did start to feel like, "Oh, man, I gotta sell a record." Not to say that that was the case, but I never felt that way with this album. I didn't feel that way with the Janet album. I just didn't. I just felt like
Yeah,
this is her doing her thing, man. So, I do believe that musical tastes change and audiences change and, fans change and new artists come along, and sometimes male or female, you kinda get not left behind, but pushed to the side, as I honestly believe maybe that's what happened to her in later years. She didn't deserve any of that because, I mean, let's face it, Phil, a lot of those women that came along after her wouldn't have had a career if not for her to begin with. Been able to, knock down doors and that kind of thing. So let's give credit
yeah.
where credit's due.
I think she definitely gave the blueprint for a lot of women um, that started in the industry very young and they wanted to transition into making older music. And that's why I've said Beyonce a few times throughout this, because you can see the influences there. You can see how she went from doing this stuff when she was younger as Destiny Child and see how she evolved getting older. And I think that Janet Jackson gave women like her a very good blueprint to follow.
Oh, dude. Yeah. There's no doubt about it. Yeah. Again, without her opening doors, busting down doors, I should say. I mean, that's saying a lot, honestly. I mean, again, kids, this woman could have lived on the family money and never done anything or tried to get an acting gig, and that's all she ever did. And instead, she wanted to make history and she wanted to do something that no one had done before her. And you could argue really hasn't had the impact since. So yeah, good on her. I'm telling you, man. The respect level from me to her is pretty big as well, if no other reason than what she accomplished. So the only thing we've got left is the interlude and the end. It is living in complete darkness. This does last for a minute and 8 seconds. This kind of does, you know, this kind of ties the album together. So, what do you think about the way this album kicks out? I mean, how it winds out? Are you good with this? Does it feel right? What's your take on the very last thing we hear here?
I think it's a good way to kind of end the album. Um, I don't know. It kind of was some of the other interludes here. I don't have anything like that
Yeah, I get it.
that like deep to say about it. I do think that the interludes and the outro um tie the album together very well. But I can't say every time I listen to the album, I listen to every single one of them. Sometimes I just skip to the music.
Yeah, same, same. But it's basically just living in a world we didn't make, living in a world that's filled with hate. And there's several verses that go along those same lines. But that's how we wrap up this album, kids. And you talk about again a classic and one that I can't believe we've never done here on the 6M. But man, we've got it now. And I don't think this will be the last time we cover Janet for sure. I mean, it is this. She had so many hits, Phil. Is this maybe her best overall contribution in terms of just making her a star and solidifying her as a true artist? Or do you
Yeah.
think this is just another step in the journey?
I can't say that I think it's her breakout album because I believe Control is her breakout album.
Mm,
Um, but I do think that this album defined her career in a lot of ways because it showed people that Control wasn't just like a one off. It wasn't just like her foray into into people's mind, making her more of a serious artist. I feel like this is the album that showed people like she had arrived. She's like a multifaceted artist, and not just that she's talented. She came with something to say. She came with like actual like good subject matter. She came with
mm,
great compositions. I mean, from top to bottom, like she came with everything you can imagine that would make an album memorable. Um,
yeah.
it feels kind of like hyperbole, but because I did mention Marvin earlier, but this album is her what's going on in some ways, not in terms of like like the reverence and stuff from that album, but I feel like in terms of the subject matter and like the socially conscious stuff she did on the album, this is her what's going on. Like in terms of like I don't want to say this is her make or break album, but it would have been tough to follow up Control with an album and feel like you took a step backwards. She didn't take a step backwards at all. She progressed.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. You talk about again, man, evolution, the evolution of a star, of a not just a dancer, not just a vocalist, not just again coming into her own, but as somebody who's a credible songwriter, somebody that with the right, and I'm going to say this, and it's going to sound a certain kind of way, with the right production team can do some damage, and I only mean that because you need the right producers on your album. I mean, we've seen legendary acts through the years whose albums don't do very well. You're like, why did this album not perform? Why did it not hit? Because the
Yeah.
producer didn't allow them to do their thing, or he or she was stifling, or they didn't get it. Like Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis got it, man. What a perfect compliment, these three together, right?
Yeah, and I think the thing that's missing with a lot of people now is you don't get to see some artists go on a run with a production team like you did with Mike and Quincy. Like they just had a
Mm,
run. Like they had the special run. And you could tell they had like a chemistry as an artist and a producer. And I feel like Jimmy and Terry had that same thing with Janet. And the albums that they did together were just like, man, formative for her. Big formative albums for her as an artist.
yeah. And I mean, plus let's give credit where credit's due here. Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis are cool. Like, there's something to be said that she was with a couple guys who were cool, that she wasn't with, a 55-year-old dude who'd been doing this for years and is kind of set in his ways. She was with a couple guys who are like, hey, we want to make you look cool. We make you look sharp and hip, and because we are. You know what I mean? They recognize that from the jump, I think.
Yeah, I think they legitimized her in a lot of ways. Because I mean, it's not easy. It's not easy to go from a child star to a serious artist, a serious pop star, the way she did.
Mm,
You can make that transition, but to have the longevity that she has, I think this album was very important.
yeah. Gosh, man. Crazy. I knew that this album had hits. I just did not honestly realize to the extent that this album just absolutely crushed it. I mean, it's crazy to think back about it. And, now, Phil, and we got to say this too before we wrap it up. Like now we're kind of used to seeing women take the stage on their own tours and tour the world, and they're getting notoriety and stuff. And like, it's not like women didn't do it before her. I mean, Tina Turner was out there doing her thing. I get it. Like there had been a handful of others, Aretha, I guess you could say to
Mhm.
some degree, right? But like owning the stage and being someone completely unique. I mean, we've seen a lot since then, Phil, but maybe a lot too lot before her. I mean, she really is a trendsetter, isn't she?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, man, like I said, I don't want to totally give Jimmy and Terry a lot of credit, but um, to wrap up my new edition comparison, um, I think he did the same thing with them and how they went from like kind of a kids boppy like child group and how they transitioned into young men and how he helped to make them cool. He helped to like legitimize them. He did the same thing for Janet. Well, they did the
Oh,
same thing for
yeah.
Janet.
Yeah, dude, there's no doubt about it. I mean, I would say if you could ask her, she'd probably tell you the same thing, that without those two guys, that she doesn't get the proper direction and again allowed to just be herself. So, yeah, I'm a fan of it. Well, the kids, there you have it. There's Janet Jackson's Rhythm Nation 1814. And by the way, as we take this home, this is a weird time to be asking this question, but the number 1814, do we know the story behind that number?
Here, I got it. The usage of the number 1814 represents the year the national anthem, the Star Spangled Banner, was written. And that's, of course, a tie to Janet feeling like Rhythm Nation was kind of a anthem going into the 90s.
Well done. Well done. We'll take it. We'll take it because she said it. I'm good with that. So I have no problem with that at all. So, yeah. Well, we had the explanation, kids. There you have the album. So, Phil, let's try to put a button on this, my friend. What is your last word on Rhythm Nation?
A formative album for her. Very important album, as we've talked about multiple times here, and positioning her as not just a massive star, a mega star, but also just showcasing that she was an adult and that she could still make relevant music, great dance music, and that this woman could just do anything she wanted. We're all just living in Janet Jackson's world. To tie into her correlation of the national anthem, we all were ready to pledge allegiance at the end of this album to Janet Jackson.
It's insanely corny, but I'm here for it. I'm totally here for it. She's got my vote, brother. I'll tell you. She's always got my vote. I'm a fan. Maybe that's translated, kids. I'm not sure, but I happen to be a fan of Miss Jackson. So there you go. So again, kids, it's the first time we've really talked about her at length. I'm sure it will not be the last. Stay tuned for that. And in the meantime, that is Rhythm Nation 1814.
Hey, thanks for listening to the show. Check out our social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at 6M Podcast. We'll see you next time.